I am gonna get it done, but I'm making a movie. It's a 2005 Taurus Ford with a 3-liter dual overhead cam, 24 valve engine. Check engine light. Guy said it doesn't run good. Low on power. He smells exhaust. Check the code. I got the 401 EGR insufficient flow. Usually don't see performance problems, at least power problems with that code, unless you run across what I'm running across. So if I can get down in here. So of course you'd want to, check your scan data or live check the EGR, the DPFE sensor, to see if it's working or not for that 401 code, or like the other videos I've done, put a vacuum on the EGR valve and see if you can get the engine to stumble. But when I started driving this thing, I did hear the whistle, the telltale sign of exhaust being clogged. And when I got, let's see if I could get a light here because I don't have it totally tore apart yet. But when I went down to look at see if I could get to the DPFE sensor, you could see the two pipes coming off of the exhaust manifold. The one I have a line hooked up to for back pressure. The other one is the one after the restrictor in that pipe, so that pressure drop can happen during exhaust flow. So if you need that explained, maybe I'll draw a quick picture, but Mr. Scanner Danner will undoubtedly have a better explanation of it. So anyway, you could see also that is the edge of my DPFE sensor. It's totally melted. Where that screwdriver is, I don't know if I'll be able to get down into there. There's the connector down there if you wanted to be fuzzy and not see it. If you wanted to get back there and do a voltage check on the system, but I don't even have to go that far because I'm gonna have to replace that thing anyway. So anyway, I started pulling the hoses off. This is the one after the restriction. You could see it got hot as well. And then here is the one before the restriction in that pipe. So it totally melted along with the DPFE sensor. So I know I have too much back pressure. So what I have here is I have this piece of fuel line or whatever coming off of that port, and technically I should be plugging that other one, even though I'm going to get more pressure out of the other side. That would drop my pressure, so I'll see if I can plug that other one. And then on the front side, this thing has 3 catalytic converters. On the front side we made a oxygen sensor test piece out of a piece of brake hose and knocked all the porcelain out of it and brazed it in there. The last one I did, it didn't dry yet. I lost the one that I made a long time ago with, I did it on Nissan or whatever. I showed that one, but I drilled it out and just used some JB weld here, because usually you're not dealing with much pressure. So eventually I'll have 2, my little drone, because we have room to fly it in here, as long as I don't hit cars like that. So anyway, I'm going to do a back pressure check. I got 1 gauge. I'll just move it back and forth and we'll see what we have. Clark,
what?
He's the one that brazed it for me, because even though you complain, you help me out anyway.
I
You gotta be nice to me. It's payday on Monday. Clark did that fancy piece of phrase job right there. So anyway, I got it running. I am hooked up to the front bank. There's bank 2, I believe, on these. And you can see it idle, you know, not much flow. Got the needle bouncing a little bit. Get that set up. And if I can just give it a little bit of throttle here, I'm just grabbing the throttle, you can see, you can even hear that thing hissing out of this one I have plugged off. It's hissing pretty good. But, like just with a little bit of throttle, that's blowing some smoke too. So it's burning something that's clogging this converter up. I don't know if it's all of them. So I'm on the front bank. It burnt the stuff in the back bank, bank 1, but you can see if I rev it up, I can get 6, 7 without really, that's just a dead rev at idle. So I'll switch over to the other one here. So I got it hooked up to the back one, but I got to do this quick because it's melting my rubber line. So same thing, if I rev it up, I can, you know, the higher I go, the higher it's going to go. 6, 7 pounds and probably more under load. So I have a definite exhaust cloggage. All right, so I shut it off. I definitely have an exhaust restriction. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, this thing has 3 converters. The ones that are monitored are the ones that are like part of the manifold, I think this one is. No, it bolts to it. So I'm going to actually drop the back converter off of it and check it on each bank again without the back in play. So alright, so underneath the car, here's bank 2, the one up front by the radiator. You can see the flange bolts. There is the upstream converter, the one that's monitored. There is the downstream sensor right there. Then it goes just into a Y pipe here where it bolts to the secondary converter, which is running down the back of the car. And then on the other side of this Y pipe goes over to another flange that goes up to that converter, which is, can't even see it. So that one would definitely be a bugger to change. Have to take a bunch of stuff off if that one's clogged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the back section off and leave that converter out of the way and see what changes with my pressure reading. So do that, be back. Alright, so there's the exhaust pipe. I can try to get a bore scope in there later, we'll see what that looks like, but got that tied out of the way. So now we have an open exhaust here. There's the gasket. So we'll check and see. I won't make you watch this go down. Determining factor right here. So I'm gonna see.
We're hanging our hat on this.
Well, I saw oil smoke coming out of the one too. So it's loud. I'm hooked up to the back. So when I rev it. Alright, so there's the back converter's good, Clark. Yeah, thank God. So I'm gonna go hook this up to the front one. I can't do it with one hand. Okay. There we are on the front converter. Try it again. So that's what you're going to expect to see. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, with with the converter and a muffler. Sometimes you'll get it to go up to a pound or a pound and a half, you know what I mean? But if it's, you know, if it's doing what we're doing, you know, in the 5-6 range, you're definitely clogged. So the front two survived, it's the back one. I honestly don't know the history of the tune-up on this car. I know it was in here, but let's see, 4 of 16. It's 3 of 16 right now. It was in here for a waiver last year. So that sticker, I don't know, it's been almost a year, and it was here for the fuel rail pressure sensor. I don't know if I wonder if this is the car I made a video on. I don't know. Either way, we know we had a fuel rail pressure sensor issue, you know what I mean? I don't know, you know, fuel trim should be able to compensate for that. You know, but it's got 113,000 miles on it. Let's see what we got here. 115. So you wouldn't think the converter should clog, so something's going on. Like I said, when it was, I don't know if I caught it, but the one time I was revving it, I saw, looked like a little bit of blue smoke coming out of that one pipe. So it's probably burning oil. The coils look original. Probably never had a tune-up. So misfires, you know, burning fluids, all that stuff's gonna, you know, has a potential to clog a converter. So I don't know how far he's going to want to go. He might just want it to run. I would probably recommend maybe doing a tune-up. We'll see how everything goes, but we have this diagnosed. I'm at least going to try to get the DPFE and the rear converter, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so I decided to pull a plug, and it's definitely not original. Looks like it has maybe about 53 thousandths, so I'll have to look up the gap, but at least the front plugs were done, so I don't know about any tune-up stuff being sold at this point. I'll talk to the guy about it. May just hang my hat on burning some oil. You know, maybe some history. Maybe it did misfire a while for a long time before these were changed. So either way, we know what the problem is as far as the back pressure, but what caused it, I don't know how far he'll let me go. Hey, look, there's Matt. You want to be on YouTube?
For what?
I don't know. That's Matt, my Snap-on dealer. Good guy. Always hooks me up. I'm cheap. He knows it. He works with me. This one here has just got clogged converter, so. Here you go, Matt. You want to hold my video camera for me? This is one thing I like about Matt. Well, I like a lot of stuff about Matt. But Matt is a car guy. He's not just a salesman. He does his own business on the side, works on cars. He knows his stuff, and countless times he's brought in a tool for me to just try, full well knowing that I probably wouldn't buy it because I'm cheap. But you can see it's not clogged really up top, but down at the bottom if I can get there. Here, let me see if I can get this to point down a little bit. Yeah, it looks right.
It goes all the way up to the flange?
Yeah, it's the flange and a flex joint. I think I'm going the wrong way, Matt. When we got, come on, Nick. I had it and then I screwed up. Let me see if I can, there it is. Turn this around. I can't get to the part that's clogged.
Because it's clogged.
Yeah. Now, like I said, Matt has brought stuff in when we had water leaks and stuff, and bring in $1,000 tool just to play around and look. Like I said, knowing I probably wasn't going to buy it anyway. You can see right there it is. So there's at least half of this thing's got junk packed all through it, so it's clogged. I'm happy about that. And this is not a snap-on tool. It's from, what's that, Harbor Freight? Is that who makes that stuff?
Yeah.
And it's nowhere near the quality of snap-on. Thanks, Matt. Alright, so got the converter back on. This is what the other side of that converter looked like. It fell apart, turned sideways, plugged the hole. So that's that. I got my front oxygen sensor back in, but I'm still back at the DPFE. And you can see, like, I can get it under load to go up to about 1 and flutter on decel, so I'm confident it's gonna run okay. So put the DPFE in and it'll be done. So a little bit of noise here, but like I said, I'll put the DPFE in and the pipes. I think they came in a, I'm not even sure, Tech Smart. I'm not even sure where they got this stuff, but it has a kit with 2 of the DPFE hoses and the sensor itself. So throw that in. Should be ready to go. I don't know if I've ever seen anything this bad. Here, peel that cover off.
I've seen something that bad. Your timing light.
Oh, not 57. Yeah, I melted it. Look at that. See, why didn't that work?
Wasn't here for that.
Wow. Is that our part number? No. Nice. I think that's failed. So I gotta put this back on probably, huh? Look how bad that is.
Oh God. Boy, that thing get toasty.
Alright, so I got the new one wrapped up with that shielding and cut the tubes to length. And you can see I had to pull the throttle body off to get my hands down in there to be able to get to the bolts on the back of that bracket and plug everything in. So alright, so in full disclosure, when you pull this throttle body off, you got these stupid little, what's the whole heater hose with this plastic crimp and this plastic end that snaps onto the throttle body, and I broke them. First one just trying to get my arm down in there to change that DPFE. So called my local parts store and they had the 5/16 end that would snap on there, and then I can put some hose clamps on here to put this back together instead of buying 2 heater hoses. God, it's the root.
It's your broken part.
Yeah.
All effing day.
Hey, I broke plastic. You know me and plastic don't get along.
You pull that thing in.
See, look, they're not leaving me alone.
Oh, yeah, it's camera.
Anyway, those little plastic things worked out really good. Got it all back together. We know that the back pressure is no longer excessive, and his low power / exhaust leak will be gone. But since it was actually here for a check engine light as well, I don't know if I can do like some kind of service bay test on a Ford or not. So we should be able to see under, we could do a key on engine running test and the car will test itself. Let's get a functional. See, got EGR, vacuum regulator duty cycle. I don't know if it'll show up. And here's the DPFE sensor voltage right there. So if I hit the test function, see if we can make the car miss. We're at 0%. We'll go 10%, 20, 30, 40. Oh, there we go. Feels like it's starting to misfire. 50%. You can see my voltage is now changing. Oh, I hit return. Anyway, so there. That's confirmation that the valve works. I don't know if you could really hear it misfire, but you can see my voltage does change. 10%, 20%. There's probably a little bit of cloggage there, because 30%, and it's still not changing anything till I get to about 40. And I feel the engine change, I see my voltage change. So chances are this will have an insufficient flow code at some time here in the future, but his performance problem will be gone. So yeah, 30%, up to 30, nothing's really happening. So I do have a video on one of these with an insufficient flow and the clogging that can happen with these things. So whatever. So that's done there. And then, like I said before, if you want a real class on DPFE sensors, go to scannerdanner.com. But here's a real quick drawing of what it's doing. So to my left, the little 3 circle, that's a picture of my exhaust manifold. And you have the pipe coming off the exhaust going to the EGR valve where my thumb is. That's bolted to the intake. And you have the DPFE sensor with the 2 rubber hoses, the big one and the little one. And the big one is in the side before the restrictor. So what you have is that little restrictor in the middle. When there's no EGR flow, the pressure is going to equalize, and the DPFE sensor is just a delta pressure feedback sensor. So it's checking pressure. But whenever the EGR valve opens and flow starts happening from the exhaust manifold into the intake, the restrictor in line is going to allow the pressure to actually drop on this side, because you're going to have more intake vacuum, and the exhaust back pressure, there's going to be more pressure on this side. So the computer's looking for just a pressure differential between either side of this restrictor or this orifice. That's how it works. So if you have flow, good flow, it's going to change, and that sensor's going to pick it up. We saw that nothing happened till 30%, but I guess I could just do a quick key on engine running test and see, is it under functional? Or is that on, it might be under codes. Key on engine running test. So start it up, run it at idle, then accelerate, and then the car is going to do what it's going to do. Oh, I touched the brake, turn the steering wheel. I don't think I have an overdrive button on this car, so if I do, it'll set a code for it. So I'll pause it and then we'll come back when it's done. Alright, so I let it run its test. It really only takes a minute or so, and when it was done, it said no codes present. So that little discrepancy on my percentage on flow isn't enough to cause insufficient at this point, so you can call this one fixed on 2 fronts. So I'm gonna check engine light still on. I'm gonna leave it on because I got, like I said before, I got April's on there and it's it's March now. So I can run an emission test, and what I spent on fixing this qualifies the car for a waiver. I can just put the emission sticker on it and be done with it. And that'll be that. So thanks for watching, guys. Alright, it's the end of the day and I have a chance to mess around a little bit. So for emissions, PA emissions, everything that is supported needs to be complete except for one I think 2001 and up, which is almost everything now. So you can see the test is complete on all of them. So if the light wasn't on, it would pass emissions, but if I clear the code, then all these will go incomplete, and then you have to go through all the drive cycles to get a regular test. This car's in for inspection actually at another shop here. I just do their emissions stuff, and he has an appointment with them to get that done, and they just want it out of the way. That's why I'm going to do the waiver. But before I do that, since I have a little bit of time, I'm going to go back to regular data and see if I can find, we can watch the DPFE sensor voltage there live and see what it does on the road. And I'm going to see if I can actually get the light to turn out. I don't know. I set I'll go with pending to see. I actually set probably the 2197 because I did have bank 2 sensor 1 out when I had it running for a while doing my back pressure check. So originally it was just the 401. So those are the pendings. So we'll go around the block a couple times and see if I can get the light to turn out. If not, then I'll just go ahead and do the waiver. Alright, so hopefully I can stay zoomed in on this. I'm driving, so I'm not going to pay attention too much to it, but under load here, get it a little bit under load. You can see my DPFE voltage change. I'm decelerating now. It's back down to the 1 volt area. So I think I already was comfortable with it, but I'm comfortable with that valve working the way it's supposed to at the moment. So I don't even see a percentage where they have it commanded, but you can see it. The voltage is changing, the computer sees the flow, so right at the moment it's not going to set that code. So I'll drive it for a little bit and then see what happens. Alright, so after my test drive and then shutting the car off, for 20-30 seconds, start it back up and check my pending codes, the EGR one is gone, and now I just have the O2 stuck lean. Problem I have with that is that one probably won't clear fast enough on a test drive just around the industrial park where I work. It may need a little bit more comprehensive testing for an O2 code. But whenever you go to the memory codes, the EGR one was still there as far as, turning the light on. So I need to run my emission tests with this EGR code, because if I shut this car back off because I went on another test drive and then the EGR one goes away, then the only code I have to go by for a waiver purpose is the O2 stuck lean bank 2, even though I think I created that one. Your repair has to be relevant to the cause of failure, and without the EGR code, none of my DPFE stuff, and the exhaust kind of works for a system lean, stuck lean O2 code. So then if I get audited for emissions, there could be red flags there, even though I'll have video evidence. So at this point, I'm going to run the emissions, get my 2 fails, put the waiver sticker on and quit messing around, because there's always a potential that now the exhaust is flowing, that my fuel trims are wrong and they need to compensate, and some other codes may creep up to where this guy will have to spend more money to get a sticker. So that's just the way it's going to be. So thanks again for watching.